How do you start a DIY punk venue? How do you have house shows? How do you these legendary things that you see in garages, videos of Pat the Bunny playing and there's like a goat walking backstage, or Kimya Dawson inside of a living room, and somehow there's 300 people inside of this tiny grandmother's home in Wisconsin. How do those things happen? I'm going to tell you a little bit, a few tips I have from my own experience, because I have played hundreds and hundreds of shows probably. I have organized maybe less shows than I've played, but I have organized hundreds of shows, and I have seen the rise and fall, the devastating falls of absolutely epic and sick DIY music venues. So I'm going to go through a few tips. I made a video in the past that's basically my thoughts on how do you do this, should you do this, and why you should do this. And one thing we covered in that is this question, this ultimate question of why the house show? Why do it at all when there's a performing arts center up the street, when there's already a bar that has bands play, when there's already all these resources for performance? Why would you have a house show? And the answer that I said in that video, that I firmly believe, excuse me, is that that funds and resources dedicated to arts and performing arts are unable to accommodate all types of art. They create funding and they create these resources for artistic expression and culture in communities, but they are just not built to accommodate everybody, especially not alternative music, punk, metal, rap. I mean, name an emo, like alternative theater, whatever. Like, of course you can go see like a Christmas Story performed live at your local art guild, or you can go see like a violin recital by a bunch of children, and it's good that they have that funding to do that, and it's good that they create those resources for those people. But you see where I'm going with this. It just isn't relevant to us, people who want to play guitar and scream and be idiots. So let's talk about how you could do that. First things first, I'm going to talk about a lot of directly practical steps on... All right, so let me talk about who this video is for. This video is for the person that has been cleared to have a show. Like, you're ready to go. You have a space. There's balls up in the air, like you're juggling, you're ready to organize, and you're like, but wait, what the hell do I do now? Let me tell you, the first thing you want to do is you're going to want to set a date for the show. If you live in a big city with lots of parties and colleges happening around you, and there's lots of, and there's a lot of activity, Friday and Saturday are going to be the most highly, highly competitive days. If you're around a holiday like Halloween, Christmas, Valentine's Day, do not pick that holiday. Do not pick any significant day. You might be thinking, well, a Halloween show sounds dope because people are looking for something to do on Halloween and everyone's going to have the day off because it's a holiday. Wrong. Probably no one's going to have the day off because you're probably an adult. And two, everybody has way better Halloween plans than watching, crappy alternative music being performed in like a living room or something. So I honestly think it sounds a little crazy, but your best bet might be a Thursday on a random basic day, because Friday and Saturday is obviously dope. But if you live in a highly populated area like a major city with colleges, Friday and Saturday are going to be incredibly competitive. But a Thursday night, you might be able to pull some magic out of the hat, in my opinion. But yeah, I think as far as promotions go, you're going to want to give yourself 1 to 2 months. 3 or 4 months, and you're kind of like wasting your time a little bit, because nobody really needs that much time to prep. The bands you're booking probably don't need it's an unnecessary amount of time. Of course, if you want to plan 3 to 5, even a year out, you can. That's what the pros do. But for our all intents and purposes here in this YouTube video, you only need about 30 days. Let's talk about gear. Sure, you might be booking a lot of acoustic people. You might be booking poets. You might be booking people that don't necessarily need amplification Or you might just be thinking, oh, my friend plays electric guitar and shreds and plays in drop D. He'll definitely have an amp that everybody can use. Or, oh, my friend Greg has a drum set. We'll be good. He'll just bring his drum set. Of course, you can rely on that. But what are you going to do when you book a really cool indie rock band and they come through with, Marshall stacks and bass rigs and this and that, and they want to play their own drum set, and they ask if you brought breakables, or are they asking all of these questions that you just don't know the answer to? I'm going to explain a few of those things right here. First things first, I'm going to give you the answer, the completely unprofessional, non-tech answer for just the regular people. Here's the thing. If you have a guitar, an acoustic guitar, you can plug it into an amp, a guitar amp. If you have a microphone, you can plug that into a guitar amp. If you have a real PA system, you can plug guitars into it and you can plug mics into it. If you have a bass guitar, you cannot plug it into the PA system. If you have a bass guitar, you could not plug it into the guitar amp. If you have beats playing, you can plug that into literally anything. But if you are having a show, perhaps, where it's just singer-songwriters, where it's just your friends with guitars and they just need one or two mics, you could use a guitar amp with two inputs, get a mic cable that has a 1/4 inch out, and it'll sound like garbage. It'll sound like ass. It'll be the worst sound system ever. But if you just have a mic stand, you have a 1/4 inch cable to plug a guitar into an amp, and you have a XLR to 1/4 inch for the microphone, plug it right into the amp, you got a whole show. Of course, this absolutely will not accommodate a full band. A full band will require their own gear. They'll probably have pedal boards, but at that point, you're not going to want to be running the mics through just plugging it into an amp or something. You're going to want a real PA system. But if you are brand new to having shows and you have no idea what's going on, probably don't book a crazy big band or a professional band with lots of members and electronic or electric instruments and things like that, unless they are accommodating the gear situation. So that's the thing. If you ask like the local badass indie band that everyone loves and you're going to have them play at your house, they might say yes, and it might be cool, and you're going to be hyped to do that. But make sure you ask if they can bring all of their own gear. Say, I don't have a PA system. It's just the microphone, the mixer, and the speakers that makes all the sound in the venue go boom, boom, loud, loud. And if you don't have that, and you are booking a really loud electric band, you need to ask them, hey, do you guys have a PA system? Or, I don't have a house kit. That's another interesting and funny thing. Someone might ask you if you have a house kit, and that just means, do you have a drum set that we can beat the fuck out of and abuse and ruin for our set? We'll bring our own cymbals and snare, but we need to know if you have a house kit that we can punch and destroy and spit on during the entire show. I think that might cover it with gear, but to reiterate in a very basic way, I just want to say for the people that maybe you're doing a folk punk show, maybe this is very low key, you don't have a lot of people attending, it's just super, super chill between friends, some acoustic guitars. At that point, some poetry, at that point, you do not need any electronics. You do not need a PA, you do not need anything. If you are going to cross over into bands, into plugged in acoustic singer-songwriter stuff, a mic'd up poet, a mic'd up rapper, you can start off in the most basic sense with just a 2-input guitar amp and just plug the mic into the amp and plug a guitar into the amp and go at the same time. You can even plug beats into the amp at the same time that you plug a mic into it by getting some... Listen, if you get this far and you have an amp and you're trying to plug a mic into it and you're trying to plug a guitar into it, just go to a Guitar Center and ask the sweatiest, greasiest, beanie-wearing employee you can find and just say, hey, I don't know what I'm doing. I have $50 and I need to buy a couple chords that are going to make my show happen. Please help me. And that guy named Greg or Paul or Brian or whatever is going to make it happen for you. Yeah, I think it's safe to say that you either need nothing, a little bit, and if you need the real shit, make sure the band's bringing it, because you can't accommodate. You're just a young homie starting out with just an amp or something. Now let me say this. The next part I want to discuss, part 3 of this video, is safe spaces. And I'm not talking about like the identity politics, super political, divisive concept of a safe space. I'm talking about safety in a very legitimate way. Like, let's say your designated space for your DIY show is in an attic of a garage, and there's no windows, and you have a fucking 20 space heaters plugged into the wall right next to the stairs, and the stairs are only this wide, and you have to shimmy down them sideways to get out, or the windows are all nailed shut or something. That is what I would consider the complete opposite of a safe space. And if your space looks like that, you really should not, honestly, like, I definitely am a party pooper in this sense, but you really should absolutely not be having a show with tons of people in a space that has no windows, no egresses, no safety whatsoever, no fire extinguisher, because God forbid you end up in a situation where some shit went wrong, somebody puts a cigarette in a trash can, or some electrical horror show happens. You and your friends could end up in grave danger. And like, this part, I'm not even being ironic. Like, the main thing you want to consider in this is, one, the unfortunate truth is that most of the time having a show like an event where you ticket and have a door guy and you're pretending to be a music venue and you're in a fucking shitty attic with 100 space heaters, first thing to consider, that's illegal. Second thing to consider is when you knowingly bring loved ones, friends, homies, tons of people into a space that is legitimately dangerous and has no exits and no precautions, you're putting those people at risk. So I'm being a little bit of a hater, I'm being a little bit boring, but just consider where you are. Consider where you are. If it's a living room and it's a pretty big space, you're having a classic living room acoustic show. Look around the room. You'll see, oh, my back door through the kitchen is right through there. The front door is right behind me. All of the windows in this place, you could fit a couch through because it's a house, and they're unlocked. And my friends, if shit hit the fan or something bad happened, you just want to make sure you feel confident that all of your guests and your loved ones and the people that came through can easily dip out, right? If you're in a space where you look around, is this safe for my friends? There's no fucking windows. The whole plate, the ceiling's like that. You have to duck down to get into the place because the ceiling's so low. No fire extinguisher. The only exit is at the back of a 100-foot hallway outside of the door, and you're in a 5-story wood building or something. You might want to be like, shit, actually, I'm risking a lot, unfortunately. And, it's sad to think about. But there are DIY venues that have had this happen where, there's some famous ones. I won't get into it because I don't have all the facts in front of me, and it's not my, this isn't that kind of video, but there have been places around the country that fire has started during a show, and there was no exits, and there was no safety, and people fucking died. And it's not funny. It's super fucking sad. And I do not want you, the young, bright-eyed, bushy-tailed, excited for life person watching this video, to take to take this information and go try to have a good show and accidentally fucking burn down the world. So that's all I'm saying, is get to your designated space where you have been granted permission to have a show, and just legitimately look around. Like, legitimately, don't be fucking stupid. Don't be high. In a sober, intelligent state of being, look around the room and decide, is this safe for the people I love? I'll leave it at that. Oh, and one more tip that I want to throw in there. The art of the sober show. I love saying the art of things. Oh, the art of the sober show. If you want to make I'm going to keep this brief. If you want to make your DIY space ironclad, unkillable. The town hall, the police, nobody can touch you. Make it a sober space. No booze, no weed smoke, no fucking hitting carts and vaping weed, nothing. No drugs, no alcohol, no partying, just art and music. If that is the vibe. If people complain, if people are like, what are these fucking freaks doing? Like, why are there gay people in my neighborhood? Like, if that starts happening, the police are going to show up to your event because all the random people in your area complained, and they're going to think it's like a drug bust. They're about to like blow open the doors on an opium den meth lab with a bunch of like bikers and crackheads, and all they're going to find is a bunch of sober anime nerds listening to like indie emo acoustic poetry. No drugs, no booze, nothing. If that is your vibe, there's cat hair on my microphone. If that is your vibe, no drugs, no booze, you will be protected. People can't fuck with you if you have a sober show. Of course, that won't last forever. You will eventually get got. But if it's sober, it'll be a while till it's over. Anyway, okay, let's get back to a little bit more logistics here. Something a little less like theoretical, something a little more practical. How many bands should you book on your show? How many are we talking here? Are we talking one band? Like, oh, my friend's band, The Kooks, they're going to come through and play for 2 hours straight and everyone's going to love it. You can do that. You can do that and it might be fun. But it also might be incredibly boring because your friend's band might not be that good. They might not have as many fans as you think they do. And because you just booked one person to play for an infinite amount of time, it will suck. And not many people will show up, or they'll leave after like 20 minutes. So what do you do? How do you spice it up and make it more interesting? My personal opinion, the magic number here is 3. 3 bands is your friend. You don't want to book too little because you don't want the night to be incredibly boring. You don't want to book 20 bands because then you will be massively overwhelmed. The thing will go till 1 a.m. It'll be absolutely crazy. It'll be essentially a festival. So where's that sweet spot? In my opinion, I'm 29, so I'm a little old and I want to like go home and go to bed. So I don't like it when shows go till like 11 o'clock or midnight. I think that personally sucks. I like when the show starts up around 6 or 7, 8 at the latest. 2 or 3 bands play, we all enjoy it, and then we all go home. And you can have a good turnout like that. It's a streamlined, good way to organize a show. But here's the crazy advice. Here's the psychopath advice. If you want to have a show with a bigger turnout that's havoc, that's crazy, and is fucking just a gnarly fun time, book 10 bands. Straight up. Book 8, 10, 12 bands. Get out a fucking spreadsheet or your notebook or whatever and fill out exactly how long each of them should play, when they should be playing, what time. Factor in about 10 to 15 minutes for breakdown and setup in between each person. You know, make that list and then just be militant. Be unforgiving. Be punishing. When your friend is trying to run the light and play, oh, can I just do 3 more songs? No. Say, Jeff, shut the fuck up. Get off stage. It's Mikey's turn to do his bongo poetry. Get his ass up here. Jeff, go fuck yourself. That's basically what you have to do if you want to book 10 bands. If you're going to book 10 bands and you're going to let people play an extra song, you're going to let them go a little bit over, you're going to let the thing start late, guess what? You're going to be on band 5 at like 1:30 in the morning. The cops are going to be there. All of your guests have gone home. All of the bands that haven't played yet are ready to just beat you to death because they hate you so much because you let everybody run the light, you let everybody play extra songs, and the 35 people that were there jumping around having fun, they all left, and the bands that didn't get to play to the big crowd are all depressed and sad, and they're never going to play your venue again. So, here's my advice. If you want to have a chill, laid-back time where you don't have to work that hard, it's not too crazy, 3. Book 3 bands, maybe even 2. 4 is pushing it if you're inexperienced. If you want to have like a volcanic eruption psychopath show with shitloads of people there and chaos, you can, but you have to be serious. You have to plan all this shit out. You have to write down set times. You have to factor in breakdowns. You have to start early, and you have to be on top of it for the whole thing. So choose your own adventure, my friend. This next part is super easy. It's just the promotional aspect of the show. How do you do it? What do you do? Classic, my friend. You make a flyer. Either have your homie do it, who you met in the anime manga club. Just a bit of coffee. Or you do it on Canva or on just some crappy photo editing app on your phone. This doesn't have to be a work of art. This doesn't have to be a serious image. The main thing you want to include is, dude, just here's a flyer. Here's a picture of a flyer. Here's another picture of a flyer. Here's another one. What you're going to see in common with these has the date of the show. If you want to get fancy, you can even include the day of the week that the date falls on. Secondly, you're going to want to include doors. Doors, so it'll say doors 6 p.m., music 7 p.m. Doors just means this is a time when guests are allowed to show up. Music means that at 7, that means that is when the opening band is going to start. And also, you might include on the flyer 18 plus, 21 plus, no sober show, no alcohol, like all of the pertinent information that will be relevant. Or don't park on my neighbor's grass, like park around the street, like don't park in the cul-de-sac, or my street's resident only, or whatever. Like, this is just where you include pertinent information for guests. Another extremely important detail in all this is if you are running a DIY space, my friends, do not put the fucking address on the flyer. Just don't put these words, DM for address, or if you want to keep it hella classic, right, ask a punk. That means nobody's going to be able to just pop in. No one's going to have the address that is not supposed to have the address. Do you understand what I'm saying? If you post the fucking address on the flyer, you put it all over Instagram, you fucking fire it off into random Discord chats, you send it to everybody in the world, you write it on the flyer physically, and then put it on every telephone pole in your city, you're going to get Karens, old people, conservative, psychopath 75-year-olds with nothing better to do with their time than to call the police, talk to zoning boards, talk to fire chiefs, building inspectors, and just burn down your life because they're old retired people. I love old people, and I love my grandparents, and I'll say this to give you a little bit of the personal touch. My grandparents are these type of people. They go to every town hall meeting and they're like saying like, oh, there's a mattress in the yard near my house. That person isn't supposed to have a mattress. Like, this is how we love our old people. We love our grandparents, but this is what they do. They complain about mattresses. They complain about dumpsters that are too close to fences and someone else's property that they don't own. This is their life. If one of them sees your flyer out in the world, they're going to know the exact building code. They're going to know the price of the building, that the last known building price. They're going to know when the year your house broke ground to build the foundation. They're going to know the people who owned it before your parents. Like, these old people just fucking know everything. They know the building inspector on a first name basis. Their son's friend is the electrical inspector. Like, these old people are powerful. And this is if you're in a small town. Maybe this isn't true in big cities or whatever, but if you're rural or you're in a suburb, watch the fuck out for these people and don't put the address public, because that's exactly who's gonna fuck you, dude. It isn't gonna be a hard-boiled like police detective that's like out to fight crime. Like, those guys don't give a shit what you're doing. It's going to be a well-connected senior citizen that is going to destroy your DIY venue. So keep that shit locked the fuck down. Don't put it publicly on a flyer, and don't be stupid. So that was a massive tirade about, or a ridiculous rant about old people in your community. And like I said, I love old people. I love my grandparents. They're old people. What are we going to do with them? You got to love them. But as far as how to make a flyer, I'm not really going to get into that because it's like a creative endeavor. You can make the damn thing on Instagram. Sorry, I got a stuffy nose. You can make the damn thing on Instagram stories where, you can hit create and then you can just type in a message into your stories. You could just structure a flyer like that, save the image, and just DM it to people. It's really not that serious. Or if you're like really insane, don't even make a flyer. Just make a little copy and paste text thing and just fucking send it to people with the info for the show. Anywho, so let's recap a little bit. So I said, I want you to book your shows 1 month away, minimum. No 2 week shit, no 1 week. That's crazy talk. Second, examine the gear. Figure out what you need. Figure out what bands need what gear. And if you're booking a serious, bigger band that, is more legit and more established, ask them to bring their own gear because you don't have the shit that they need. 3, God forbid an emergency happens, but make sure your shit is safe. Look around. Or my window is fucking nailed shut. Am I on the 5th floor and there's no fire exit? Consider these things and make sure you're not jeopardizing the safety of your homies. Because, like I said, God forbid an emergency happens. You want to make sure your shit's locked down and that you are in a safe place. Number 4. 3 bands if you want to have a normal night. 10 bands, highly organized, if you want to have a psychopathic, crazy, fucked up night. And 5, make a flyer, don't put the address on it, and just send it to all your friends. Okay, we got a couple more here. And now that we've completed those first 5 steps, you've arrived at showtime. You're here. People are parking. People are filing in. There's people smoking cigarettes out front. You're seeing acoustic guitars. People are it's a fun time. The vibes are building. You're stressed. You're really anxious. Like, this is it. What are we going to do? It's doors. The music's starting soon. The PAs. Everything's... What do we do? How do you make sure everything goes right? This is really hard for a lot of people because this is really hard because it's awkward and you don't want to be mean. But the thing you have to do is give people jobs. You're going to have friends that are going to come up to you and be like, yo, this is so sick. Like, do you need anything? Like, you want me to go grab drinks? Or like, oh, like, I parked over there. Is that okay? Or like, hey, where should I tell my friend to put his, like, fucking like, people are going to be asking you questions like that. And what you need to do is grab your closest friend that is there by the arm, your friend's girlfriend, like, whoever is there that has at least like 3 brain cells, is cool and is your friend. Be like, Jeff, make sure everyone knows where the bathroom is. If someone asks for the bathroom, I want you to be the bathroom guy. Mary, I want you to be the girl in charge of making sure the bands put all of their amps and guitars in a safe location. Like, please just find a spot for them to put their amps and shit and do it. Spike, you over there, my friend. Can you go find like a bucket for people to put cigarettes in? My dad's gonna be pissed if they're all over the yard. Like, this kind of thing. Like, look at your friends in their fucking eyeballs and say, help me. Like, if you try to do this completely all on your own, no help, no jobs for anybody, just you trying to do everything, you're gonna go insane. You're gonna be mad at people. People are gonna fuck you over. People are gonna take you for granted. It's gonna be really stressful, and you're probably gonna just be bumming by the end of the show, and you won't really have had enough fun. You won't have fun at all because you're gonna be so focused on making sure everything's going right and doing the job of like 30 different people that, your night's going to be ruined, right? So you got to, like, if your girlfriend's there, if your homies are there, if you're whoever, like, you got to have a core group of people and ask them directly, like, hey, can you be in charge of the gear? Can you fiddle with the knobs on the mixing board to make sure the bands don't sound shit? Oh, you can? Great. You're the new sound guy. Or like, hey, can you be the guy that hooks up your Spotify to the house speakers and make sure that you press play on a cool song every time a band ends so that it isn't awkward in between sets? Or like, hey, when I go up on stage and I'm about to play, can you make sure you dim the lights so that there's a cool ambiance? And then instead of you just standing up there with bright-ass lights and you're like, hey, can somebody like turn... you want to have the shit pre-programmed. You want to have the shit figured out before the show day, or at least on the show day. And the way you do this is you just literally, it's like, you ever hear people say like, oh, if there's an emergency, if somebody gets seriously injured and somebody needs help, you have to look at somebody in the eye and tell them, you call 911. You do CPR. Otherwise, people are going to panic and they're going to think somebody else called 911, or they're going to think somebody else is going to do chest compressions. No, you have to, if you're like in charge of an emergency and you're trying to like help people and shit, you got to fucking direct people in their eyes specifically. Hey, you, Mark, go get a bottle of water for our friend. They fainted. Like, that's all I'm saying. If you're going to be the show organizer, you're responsible. You're responsible for the shit that happens. You're responsible for making sure it's a dope-ass time. You're unfortunately responsible if disaster happens. So how do we mitigate this? How do we spread out the responsibility? How do we spread out the jobs and make sure... How do we make sure you're safe, you have fun, the guests are safe, the guests have fun, you're not overworked, you're not insane, and everything went dope? It's giving people jobs. It's as simple as that. The last thing I want to cover too is I just made it sound like an emergency thing. Like, oh, you better be fucking on top of it and yelling at people and get like, you got to be a drill sergeant. Like, that's all true. But my last piece of advice to you, if you were going to have a DIY house show, is to be as calm as humanly possible, if that makes sense. If your blood pressure is way too high, or you are freaking out, or you are stressed, you're going to find yourself under so much pressure that you either fold, you yell at people, or you just kind of get way too invested. Like, there would be times where I would be booking shows when I was younger where I would get so stressed out, or I would get so worked up that I would hear people looking for me, like, yo, where's Brian? Like, we need an XLR for this. Like, what are we gonna, oh, like, the gear, what are we, or like, oh, like, we need help. Like, who's the next band? And I would hide. Legit. I would just, like, go behind the building, or, like, go, like, it was, I would literally duck down, like, behind something and hide during the show. Ignore the problem that was happening. Let everything fall apart, or let somebody else figure it out. And just sit there, just stressed out, smoking cigarettes and not helping. Like, think about that. Let that sink in a little bit. Of course, I was young. It wasn't that serious. I was inexperienced, but I would literally knowingly just let shit hit the fan because I was so anxious and my hands would be shaking and I like wouldn't have any idea what to do. And I would just be like, fuck it. It'll figure itself out. And through the power of DIY, organizing and friendship and fun, it actually did figure itself out. And people, you know, people got the sound system running. People just decided what band was next. People decided how long is appropriate to play. People decided when people were going too long. It just... Now I'm kind of reminiscing, but like, that's the thing, man. Like, if you're organizing a show and it's at your spot, or it's at your friend's spot and you're in charge of it, you book the bands, you can't be running sound, you can't be running door, you can't be doing 100 different jobs at the same time. You're not a superhuman. You're not better than everyone else. You don't know more than everybody. Like, give some people a job. Let a village raise the show. You know what I mean? Because it's going to be a better show. People are going to be happier to be involved. You know, there might be a person there that just pulled up. They don't feel like they're a part of it. They're just kind of watching. They're like, oh, what's this all about? And then suddenly the show organizer goes up to them and says like, hey, yo, like, what's your name? Oh, Joe. Okay, what's up, dude? Yo, do you mind handing out like these waters to people? Like, it's getting really hot in here. Can you like be our water guy? You might think that would be an incredibly rude thing to ask a stranger. Like, hey, can you hand out waters at the show? But that actually might be like the most important thing you've ever asked, like that guy has ever been asked to do, right? Like, you might be asking somebody with no responsibility, no connections, no friends, they have no standing, like nobody has any idea who they are, and then you've just created the water guy. Now this guy is the fucking water guy. Everybody's happy to see him. People are talking about him. They're asking him how he got involved. He's giving people waters. This guy's happy. He's connected. You're never getting rid of that guy. He's coming to every fucking show ever. He's going to get a fucking water guy tattooed on his chest after that, because he's going to feel ingrained and a part of it and happy to be helping and to be a part. Human beings like to build shit. We like to learn shit. We like to put things together. We like to take things apart. We like to organize. We like to be important. So these people at your show, while you're fucking stressed out, your mind's fucking melting because this person's late and this fucking thing broke and blah, blah, blah. You got a sea of people around you that are just frothing at the mouth, desperate for a sense of responsibility, desperate to be a part of something greater than themselves. And this show, this amazing artistic and community experience, is that very thing. Of course, you might ask this guy, hey, can you hand out waters to all the dehydrated people? And they're going to say, like, no, what the fuck? Fuck them. Ask the next guy. And the next person might then have that experience. And the water guy is born. You know, like, there are people that probably are professional sound engineers that, like, work at clubs and shit and run a fucking mixing board with 100 inputs and running a huge club that probably started off just twiddling knobs on a shitty little mixer in a garage, right? Like, this is a thing. Like, there was a fucking, it's an iconic story in my life, but back in the day at my first DIY venue, the ceilings were, they had these big bright light bulbs, and we would unscrew the one over the audience to create ambiance, right? Like, we had a light over the performer and the light over the audience. We just unscrew it a little bit because they were hooked up to the same light switch, so you couldn't turn one off or the other. And they were too high up for anybody to reach, except for just this one random guy who was like fucking 6'8", like just a giant guy was there. And somebody looked at him and went like, yo, can you like unscrew that a little bit? And he did. He unscrewed it. And then whoever was on stage said, fuck yeah, light bulb guy. And then everyone started screaming and yelling, light bulb guy, fuck yeah. And that guy was nicknamed Light Bulb Guy for fucking years. And he was the guy. Like, he would reach up and unscrew that light bulb with pride and love. And he was the fucking man. And it was funny. And of course, he probably wasn't the only person that could ever do that, but that giving him that job and that responsibility and that control over the success and failure of a piece of the show made it work. It made it that much better. And you could extrapolate that out to a million different things. You could have the sound guy, you could have the door guy, you could have someone just standing around showing people where the bathroom is. You could have somebody giving out flyers. Fuck, dude, have your friend come face paint like it's a goddamn kids party. Excuse me. There's a million ways it could go, but I speak from experience when I say that if you try to do it all alone, you don't give anybody jobs, and you don't let anybody help you, you're going to be very, very, very miserable. You're not going to have I'm telling you, if you do this alone and you don't give people jobs, you don't let people help you, you will burn out, you'll be miserable, and in that process, you'll probably lose friends. You will lose people. Like, drama will happen. It'll suck just because, and it won't be the only reason, but a big source of that was you didn't delegate. You didn't let people take the wheel sometimes. You didn't let go sometimes. You didn't trust. And you didn't give people enough responsibility. And I guess that's my piece. I noticed that on my last video, how to organize DIY house shows, I got a lot better feedback than a lot of the other things that I've talked about on here, like drawing tips and shit. And maybe there's a hunger for this kind of stuff. So if you like hearing some like now old fucking guy kind of like me talk about how to do shows, definitely drop a comment and let me know that this is the type of thing you want to talk about. But yeah, I could go on about this shit forever, man, because it was a wild ride, and it's still a wild ride. I'm still fucking going. I'm still doing shit, but it's also kind of emotional to talk about in some ways too, because I started doing this when I was 17, and I'm 29 now, which is fucking cuckoo bananas, if you know what I'm saying. So I've made some of the best friends I've ever had in my entire life doing this shit. There's people that have died that were, back in the day, seen veterans, people that were at every show photographing that, like it's been a time. A lot has happened. A lot of people have come and gone, and I've learned a lot. And if you're just starting out, you were at the beginning of a profoundly dope journey, and I wish you well. And perhaps when it all goes well and it's all said and done, you can thank me. You can say you learned it. You learned your first shit from these stupid ass YouTube videos. So, my name is Brian Huntress. I'm an artist. I'm a whatever. I'm a songwriter. I'm a millionaire. I'm not really a millionaire, but anyway. Yeah. Okay. Love you guys. Thanks for watching. And if there is anything that you truly take away from this video that is more important than anything else, it is the safety aspect. Don't put giant speakers in front of exits. Don't nail windows shut. Don't be a fucking idiot. And don't put a bunch of space heaters in your building. Be smart. Be safe. Keep your friends. Keep your homies safe. And have a good time. Take photos. Have a blast. Love you guys. Bye.